What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, this is TWA Motorsports, and today we are working on some actual motorsports stuff. I guess you could call it. I mean, I guess cars and stuff are motorsports too, but we are working on the Ruckus. So in the last video, when I did kind of an update and showed you guys my golf cart, I talked about I had a Honda Ruckus. The battery was dead, so today we're going to be replacing the battery in that. Now, that is relatively simple. I'm going to show you the process anyway, but the other thing we have to do is, you can see these boxes here. I bought a rear seat for my golf cart. So this is a club car. Like I said, if you guys saw that in the last video, you kind of know what's going on. But I bought it for our family to ride around in. Well, the unfortunate thing is there's 4 of us, and 3 of us can fit on here, and then my son can kind of hang on the back, but we want to all be able to sit down and drive it around. So I got all of this stuff out of its boxes, and there are the seat cushions there. So we're going to be doing that as well. But first we are going to start with the Honda Ruckus. And the battery change is relatively simple, guys. I'm going to go grab a Phillips screwdriver because that's just about all you need in order to do this. But I will link this down below. My local parts store wanted 80 bucks for a battery. I found one on Amazon for $30 shipped. Even if it lasts a year, it's worth more than buying one at a parts store. I just think it's crazy that batteries differ that much in price. As far as the seat, we'll go into what that cost when we get to it. And but anyway, like I said, I'm gonna go grab a Phillips screwdriver. Let's get this thing apart. So to get to the battery on one of these things, it's relatively simple. There's only 4 Phillips head screws, and I'm assuming that I don't know that I can do this one-handed, guys. Anyway, I'm assuming that a majority of these from like 03 till even the newer ones all have Phillips screws. If not, it's still the same process, but we need to get these out of the way. And then once we get both of these, so there's 4 of them, there's 2 on each side. Once we get these 4 out of the way, we will have access to the battery. So get these out. To be quite honest with you, this is going to be the easiest part. I mean, as far as replacing the battery on this, I think the seat on that is going to take some time. But we got all kinds of time. Okay, so we don't have all kinds of time, but we have time. All right, once we get those out, you do need to pull up from the bottom. And this kind of pops out of the way. And I do have lights on here, guys, that I put in the side. So yours won't have that. Well, maybe you put those on. But anyway, once we get that out of the way, then we have access to the battery. Now, it's just a Phillips to take the 2 pieces out here, but you're also going to have, I believe that is a 10 millimeter to get the actual bracket that holds the battery in place. So I'm going to go grab a 10, and then we will take this all apart. Once we have that all out of the way, you should be able to just lift the battery out of its place. And there are little threaded inserts in here. Sometimes they fall out of your battery. You can see those in there. And the new one does come with that, as well as new screws. Now I went ahead and put these, that's what I have a feeling we're gonna have a problem with, but I went ahead and put these into place. And I think that they're gonna fall out when I put this in, which is likely going to happen, but maybe not. We may have to use a magnet to keep them in place while we tighten everything back up. But we are back in place, and we just need to grab the new screws that come with it, just because I'm not sure that the threads are the exact same on the new ones as the old ones. So we're going to use the ones that are supplied with the kit. And yeah, we're going to have to use a magnet to lift this up into place. So I'm going to go grab me a magnet. Once you get those screws all tightened up, and you want to make sure it's in that channel on the bottom, otherwise it's not going to fit correctly. And well, let's test it. Turn it on and see if it starts. I got the brake set. All right. So it is working, which is good because every time I wanted to ride this, it had been setting for about 2 years, but every time I wanted to ride it, I'd have to jump start it, And when these things set for a while, man, they do not want to run. So it took a while, and it would have to sit there. I'd have to undo those 4 bolts. It's a hassle, guys. And for 30 bucks, it's absolutely worth it. Like I said, I will list that battery in the description down below. But that is finished. So let's move on to the golf cart. Now, I'm probably going to start out here and then finish in the garage just because of the time of day it is. It's starting to get dark on me. And, well, we have a lot of disassembly to do. There's a lot of parts that come with this kit. And, frankly, it's not going to be quite as easy as the, 4, 6, 8 bolts that we had to take, 7 bolts we had to take out of that in order to do it. So let's get started on the golf cart. So the very first thing we need to do is we got to take a ton of this stuff apart. So I'm going to take everything apart that has a Phillips head in it. So we got to take the engine cover off. We have to take the rear bumper off, which those are both Phillips. And then we have to take all the, so we have to take the rear seat off, which is also Phillips. And then the canopy has to come off. And all of the bracketry, so basically the seat frames, all the brackets have to come off. So let's get started with that. Now, as you can see, everything is removed, so hopefully we are now ready to start putting some stuff back together because, man, this thing's all torn apart now. But let's go grab the first part that we're going to put in. So the very first thing we need to install are the 2 braces that come in the kit and the floor pan, which I'll show you here in just one second. And those go on with the, obviously, the bolts or nuts and bolts that come with the kit. But this sets on here like this. And those pieces go on the top of it. Now, according to the instructions, this is how that goes. I'm not sure which direction it's going to face, but so we're going to loosely put them in for now. And they're going to get a washer and then a lock washer on the bottom. So if we have to move them later, we will. But that is how they go together for now. We'll see if we can get all this stuff on there with one hand. And like I said, I'm not going to tighten any of this up yet because I have a feeling we may have to turn these brackets one way or the other. I know that this is the bottom side of the bracket, the rounded piece, or at least that's what it looks like in the picture. But until we get everything where we want it, we're not going to tighten anything down. I think they face out. So that's the first step. Obviously that is where we're going to put our feet. So the next thing we need to do is, I've got this just setting on here for now, but we need to install these brackets. And that's what's going to help tie it in on the front side. So there's no real, the instructions really suck, guys. So this is the flip up portion. So this little hook here is the back. Well, for now it's the back. It's actually going to be the front, but we're going to be installing them on this section here. So the pieces, you can see here the foam pieces that actually are going to set on the cart. It's going to be facing this direction. It'll make more sense when we get a little further along, but for right now I'm going to go ahead and put this together. Same thing, I'm going to do it loosely just in case we have to move stuff around, but this is the way it goes, or at least so it seems in the instructions. So I'm going to set that into place on that side and then do the exact same thing on this other side here. Like I said, the instructions are absolutely terrible, and so that's why I'm doing this, guys, is so you can have hopefully better instructions if you go to do this. Now, once you get those into place, the next piece of instructions say that you're going to go ahead and put your seat cushion on. Well, the downside of that is, look at how much side-to-side movement we have here. So we really don't know where that needs to go. And if we put the seat cushion on now, we're going to have some issues. It's not going to, I don't think we're going to be able to tighten it up. And so I'm going to wait on the seat cushion for now. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this into place, and we've got our main brackets where our seat backs are going to set, and this is all going to mount. So I'm going to grab those, and those are very similar to the pieces that we just took out. So you have the two holes on the front and the one hole in the back that goes into the body. And so that is going to go right here. And this piece here is going to sandwich between those. So we're obviously going to have to flip it over. So this main bracket will go in just like the old one did. They do supply hardware. I'm not really jazzed that they only gave you one washer, and I really think you need two, so I used some out of the old stuff that I took off. But it says to install the front here first, which is what we are going to do. It's kind of a pain to reach around and put a nut and washer on the back, but can be done. And then once you get the nut and washer on there, you have two of them on the front. Remember, we took two out and we're putting two back in. I'm not going to tighten these yet either. But once we get these into place, then we're going to sandwich that Z bracket that we just installed on the actual folding deck. We're going to sandwich that in between the cart and this new bracket. So I'm going to go put the other side on real quick, and then we will come back and put the bolts through all of that. Now that I have that other one loosely installed, we can go ahead and try to sandwich this in between. Now I will tell you guys that there's a ton of pressure to get this into place. So you may fight it a little bit. And I tried to put that plastic piece to protect the body back in between. May end up having to take it out. Able to get it in there. You kind of have to bend these around a little bit. Way more of a project than I thought it would be. I knew it'd be a little difficult. I mean, it's not really hard, it's just really time consuming. So that bolt is in. I'm not going to tighten anything up yet. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and tighten up the front two pieces here. So these two bolts. Once I get those tightened on both sides, I'm going to go ahead and push this up as far as I can, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten this one here. Now once I've done that, I'm going to kind of center it side to side and kind of eyeball it, and then we need to hook up these bottom section pieces. So this here, it does turn a certain way. And you know, I told you that at the beginning, but we are going to go ahead and put those bolts into place. Once we get these bolts into place, then we can go ahead and tighten up these, and the bottom of those Z brackets that we just tightened up. So we can tighten up everything once we get these installed. But in order to do that, obviously we're going to have to flip this down. And chances are, well, no, we can go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the bolts in here, and we'll get everything snug down. So at this point, I have the cushion in place, and I've just got it setting here, but it screws on with like some self-tapping screws, which makes me a little nervous. I don't like using that to put these on, but ultimately that's what the kit comes with. They're just self-tapping Phillips head, and the reason they told you to put it on before is obviously it's going to want to move when you tilt it up, but like I said, I wanted to make sure that everything was straight, so I put it on a different way. And ultimately it's sitting in a channel, so I think we're going to be fine. The other thing is just make sure that it's nice and centered side to side where you want it. It lines up really nicely down here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into place. So at this point, we need to install these arm bars. And so they're gonna bolt in several places. You're gonna have one bolt here, it's gonna bolt here, and then to the foot piece down below. And with the foot piece, you're gonna have this little triangle that goes underneath for some added support. The long one, there is a long bolt. Obviously that's gonna go in the bottom. So let's go ahead and get this into place. Now once you get all three in and the three on the other side, go ahead and tighten them down. Now be very careful, don't get real crazy tightening these down because this is pretty thin. I mean, it'll probably be okay, but don't go crazy with, you know, you might want to do it by hand. I've got this set on the lowest setting, so I'm going to go ahead and snug them all down. So once we get those all tightened up, it's time to go ahead and put the hood strut pieces back in, well, these into place. And we're just going to set them up there for now, but these, hopefully you guys can see, they curve towards the front of the truck or the cart. So you're going to use these washers and these bolts to put this back into place, and it's going to kind of be a fight, but go ahead and bolt this together, and then we'll worry about the top here in just a second. But for now, and it doesn't say which way to orient the bolts, so I don't know the orientation. I'm putting them facing back just because I feel like your elbow might hit this, whereas the front passenger would be a little farther away. But it doesn't really matter which way you put them in. Get both sides into place, and then we will put the canopy. We'll actually hook the canopy back up the way it's supposed to go. It looks like it's just a hair higher, actually, with the new seat. But maybe that's the way it's designed. I've got this down as far as it'll go. There's no other holes. There's only one way to fasten this on. Here I am putting the bolts in the wrong way. I'm one of those guys I like everything symmetrical, so it would drive me crazy if I had one bolt going this way on this side and the opposite way on the other. Even though it wouldn't matter as far as structure, it would make me crazy. So once we get these into place, we will tighten them up. Same thing here, guys. Don't get real crazy tightening them. You don't want to break anything or smash this metal. And then we will hook up this upper portion. Now, something you guys might notice is because of that piece being aluminum, there is this insert in there. This will not go back in. It just doesn't go far enough down on this bar in order for it to fit. So I took it out, but we're ready to put this back into place, and it's going to come out the exact same way that it went in, or at least we hope. It looks like the holes line up pretty well. So we'll get this into place. Make sure you're using your plates here to protect, not smashing it down. And put the two nuts on the back side. Then we can go ahead and tighten all this up once we get the other side done. So once we have the canopy all tightened up, we can go ahead and put our engine cover back into place, and then we're going to go grab the back cushion here, the one that faces the back side, the new cushion, and we're going to put that on. And we're starting to wrap stuff up, guys, so it's getting very close. But like I said, go grab your engine cover, put it into place. That's just those two Phillips that bolted on in the same location, and then those bolts up there are going to be used to put that backer on. All right, so once we get that all tightened up, it's time to put the front seat back into place. Now, the way this works, it's going to be kind of difficult, just because they're Phillips screws that hold the seat to this, and you have to put this on first. So the kit's kind of universal as it works on different models depending on the seat. So 2000.5 and up are a different mounting point. And so the bolts they send are ridiculously long, so we're not going to use those. I'm going to use the factory bolts that actually bolted the old seat to the old piece of aluminum here. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into place first. And it only goes one way. The holes are actually drilled a little off. You're using these center holes. These outside ones are going to bolt to your seat. But let's go ahead and get this into place. And I'm just going to use one on the top and one on the bottom. Well, actually, I take that back. I'm going to use one in the middle on both sides, and then possibly one on the bottom. I'm not really sure, just depending on which one lines up the best. But definitely one in the middle, because that is the flattest point. These two upper and bottom pieces are curved, and I just don't think it's going to bolt together quite as easy. So I'm going to put that into place. to go back on with the factory screws that go into the back of the seat are to reverse that. So the curve goes like this as opposed to the other way. And that puts those bolts a little closer. That was the only way I could do it. Now the picture actually shows it to go the other way. Like I said, these instructions really suck though. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get these seats screwed on. I may end up taking this off to get these tight because they're not a, they're a Phillips head. So I can't really get a good grip on a Phillips screwdriver back there. So I may end up taking this off, tightening them up, and then putting this back on. But once we get that finished, guys, the only thing left we have to do is put the grab bar on the back. And you don't have to do this, this is totally optional, but it's to put the grab bar on. So this guy sits here, and there's just one more set of bolts that bolt it underneath the cart here, and there's a plate that it sets on. So all you have to do is use your washers and bolts, bolt it to there, and then bolt the grab handle to these bars. Now these bars do face like this on the outside, so you're gripping the outside of them. And that will be our last step. We will pull it out in the daylight and give you guys a look at what it looks like. Well, guys, it has been a couple weeks. It might even be longer than that. I wanted to get these things cleaned up before I showed you them all finished up, but the Ruckus is doing great with a new battery. It definitely needed that. Simple project. We've also added a new addition. This is my youngest son's new Sierra pickup. This is where it sits now. And the seat on the back of the golf cart, while it was the worst instructions I've ever used in my life, my son's Chinese toys come with better instructions to assemble than this thing did. I absolutely don't understand it, but we got it together. I just kind of had to piece it together and then tighten it up after we got all finished because none of the instructions told which direction anything went. It just kind of was a piece together and do type thing. Since then though, we have been using that a lot. It is nice to have the extra seating on there. My son has wrecked it again, so you guys know that he messed up the wheel. Probably not his fault. I think the wheel just came loose. Not a huge deal. He was trying to avoid some glass in the road. He hit a fence post, busted the front windshield, as well as put a nice little gouge here in the side. But look, that's part of having a teenager and dealing with them driving around and probably not paying attention, probably going too fast. Anyway, if you guys like this video, smash that thumbs up button. I promise you we will not always be working on this, although we do have some more stuff planned for that. I've got a new windshield replacement coming, as well as some other cool stuff to make this thing look a lot better. Like I said, I wanted to clean it up, but didn't get that done, and wanted to show you guys basically it all finished up. And anyway, if you guys do like this, like I said, smash that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed, go hit the subscribe right now. Make sure you ring that bell icon while you're down there. That way you're notified every single time we drop a new video. And well, I promise you, we will work on some other stuff soon. Truck, cars, it's coming. Stay tuned to see what we do next.